What's going on, everyone? So in today's video, I wanted to share some old content from a trip to Asia that I took a couple of years ago, where I went through Singapore, Japan, and of course, as you guessed it from the title of this video, South Korea. So I was there for 3 days and I got to visit a couple of the big audio shops there. And I honestly just can't believe I've just had this footage sitting for a couple of years. So I figured I would make a quick video about it. So first, let's start with Scheherazade. I think Scheherazade is probably the place to be if you want to get your ears on the really high-end gear and you want to get your ears on as much stuff as possible. So it's located in Cheongdam, which is pretty much the most bougie area of the city. So like when you go outside and you see the front of the store, it looks very boutique and you know you're about to enter a very like premium store. They basically have a bunch of in-ear monitors on display that you can just pick up essentially and then take it to a bunch of seats, and I think there's a few couches there that you can relax on and just listen to gear. And their selection is really, really expansive. So the top floor, and yes, there are levels to this store. So the top floor is sort of reserved for the more expensive stuff. So you'll see stuff like from, I don't know, Noble Audio, Unique Melody, what else was there? Vision Ears. So you'll see that stuff on this floor. And then if you go down a floor, down to the basement, they have all the chi-fi stuff. So you'll see stuff from like The Audio. But suffice to say, they have most of them there and you have a good range of in-ear monitors to choose from. Now, I think the really cool thing about Scheherazade though is that they also have speakers. And speaking from experience, going to other high-end audio stores like Zeppelin & Co. in Singapore and E-Earphone in Tokyo, they don't really cater to speakers. And part of that is just has to do with like the demographics there. Most people in Singapore and Tokyo are not going to have speakers just because it requires a lot of space. But in South Korea, well, there's also not a lot of space, but especially in this area, the people here tend to be quite wealthy, so some of them can afford it. And because of that, Scheherazade does have a good range of speakers to choose from and that you can demo from. So yeah, that was pretty cool. I got to hear some of the KEF stuff. I know that headphones.com is stocking that stuff, but it was interesting to hear that finally. And then I also got to hear the Genelec G3s, which are sort of like the upgrade to the G2s that I currently have right now. Okay, so let's move to SoundCat. SoundCat is in, I think it's Yongsan, which is sort of like the electronics district of Seoul. So it's a little bit more, well, I don't want to say like run down, but it's definitely a bit more of an industrial area. And it kind of shows in how like the brand, or the store, excuse me, presents itself. Now, the nice thing about SoundCat is that it is like located with a cafe sort of jointly next to it, and they share some of the same space, so you can order like a drink basically and then go listen to music while you're at it. Now, that being said, the selection of in-ears at SoundCat is going to be a lot more narrow. I really think they only had IEMs from a few brands like 64 Audio, West Tone, I think they have JH, Etymotic. So it's mainly like the brands that a lot of musicians and professional audio folks use. Now, a lot of the juicy stuff though is in their office, which is upstairs. And I'm gonna be honest, it was pretty hard to communicate with them, but they did let me film certain parts of it so I can show you guys what that looks like. Like I said, they cater to a lot of artists, specifically K-pop artists. So you'll see like a whole wall basically of artists with their signature. Pretty cool. And then they also have a big flat screen TV that shows the artist, the IM, and just a shot of the artist being there in SoundCat. And if you go hop on SoundCat's Instagram, that's where they take that photo essentially. But yeah, pretty interesting experience overall. That being said, I definitely wouldn't really go out of my way to visit SoundCat over Scheherazade, especially if you're not into that type of lore, sort of that like crossover with K-pop artists and just artists in general. If you're after a CIM though, and you want to get impressions, I think that might be an instance where you might want to go to SoundCat instead. And yeah, I'm sure there are a ton of other audio stores in South Korea. These were just the two big ones that I got to in I think it was like 3 days I spent in Seoul. I was not there for very long, but yeah, I was just happy that I was able to finally share this with you guys, and I hope it was interesting.